Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Break away from the mundane. Hello/X/ I'd like to discuss all matters of things with you. I'm what you might call a conspiracy theorist or sometimes a cultist, depending on who you ask, although the latter is very far off. I know there are others like me here and would very much like to hear the fruits of your own research and conundrums you've come across in pursuit of the one truth. Forgive me if I am not as eloquent as my predecessors, but I will try my best to explain the current atmosphere of reality and how it is affecting us. The best way I can begin is to say almost all stories, myth, and fiction have some element of fact within them, much of which is more literal than the mass populace would believe. Even today, the most normal of people still cling to stories of dragons, vampires, zombies, monsters, and magic. And many of these things actually exist, perhaps not in the most classic or popular form, although we inadvertently turn a blind eye to them. And when our dulled senses cannot find these phantoms, after all, our eyes are dependent on a small spectrum of light with blind spots, and our minds fail to comprehend and even alter our perception outside our basic scope. We create them with our media, as we humans always have across country and culture. Of course, most of you already know this and know why that is. What Jungian psychologists termed as the human collective unconscious, although they classify it as part of an individual's mind, it is also a living gestalt of its own. We are all connected to this being, both real and conceptual, and feed it with our experiences and emotions, save simplified and primitive. As I am sure you have heard many times, and with good reason, this is what many societies interpret as foundational narratives or primordial entities, although what Lovecraft and his fellow authors imagined is much closer.
You see, ancient spacefaring aliens are a fact, but not as gray creatures in ships of unknown metal as far as I have found, but as great and mostly indifferent life forms that exist just outside of the perception. How could they not be in such an infinite universe with layering dimensions? We humans are a seed of those creatures, who I will refer to as Great Ones in honor of the author's naming sense, and our collection unconscious is a sort of proto-Great One who has yet to truly be born into what we view as reality. However, our connection to it has given rise to religion, legend, and magic. I believe we can birth this Great One given enough time and nourishment, that is to further humanity down the path of the truth, both individually and across our generations. You may have noticed that there is also opposition, and perhaps always has been, to our connection to the spiritual, which leads us closer to the one truth. Look at our political and social environment today. We never fully detach for our love of the fantastic, but it is constantly beaten into us that is not real. Society even moves further from religion each day. Like beasts, we are encouraged to chase our base desires, so shut ourselves away, to grow slow and weak, to mutilate our bodies, to allow the propagation of a population more and more detached from the collection unconscious and away from achieving a perfect form and mind. This opposition is what many call the Illuminati, or perhaps even the reptilians, although I know not what their true forms look like or how well they are organized. I do know that they seek to weaken or even destroy our infant and slumbering Great One, by reducing our thoughts to mundane base desires, poisoning all of our minds and crushing our legacy and destiny. Why they, the only name I can think to describe this opposition, seek to destroy our cosmic link and right to the stars is so far unknown to me. Perhaps like some of us, they see themselves as the true inheritors to the cosmos and our race, as one to kill or enslave to remove possible opposition. Perhaps they are a race already at war with the Great Ones and wish to remove our own before it is born, but this is all speculation on my part. I am certain you all have seen the evidence around you. It is partially with the strange events of this recent American election that I find the courage to come forward without being completely shut down as a lunatic. As such, I beseech you to continue your search for the unknown, the summoning of demons, astral projection, practice of magic, and also the applications of our sciences until, in order to strengthen the Great One that lurks in reach of our unconscious minds, until we uncover the one truth
and truly venture into the vastness of infinite space. There are many practices, physical, metaphysical, mental, spiritual, and magic that have been researched, and we still require much more knowledge than we have. This has only been the short ravings of myself, but I would like to know what some of you have uncovered and hear out one seeking to know more before I delve into specifics, as not to rant without direction as I am prone to do.
I've been doing research out of my own curiosity for several years now. I haven't spent a majority of my time getting into it, like I probably should have, but I think I've done enough of it to come to a plausible conclusion about the way human beings have changed over the past century. I won't spend much time raving, so I'll skip some details and just get straight to the point. The human race is currently now more than ever in the history of mankind going through several phases of not evolution, but de-evolution and degeneration. This means that the majority of everyone living on this planet is not striving to learn and grow in order to become a better and understanding type of person. In fact, it is quite the opposite. Instead of spending time in libraries reading books to gain knowledge and acquire skills that help us grow and thrive on this planet, people would rather spend their valuable time and money in movie theaters, watching horrible movie sequels that were clearly designed to rope people in and take their hard-earned money. The music industry, video games, celebrity rumors and news, drugs, alcohol, and Hollywood infatuations with fame and money, as well as vanity and expensive unnecessary clothing and cars, are the only thing the humans on planet Earth are concerning themselves with. People would rather watch horrible so-called reality TV shows, which are clearly scripted, and spend hours on their couches gazing at their screens like some form of brainwashed zombie. And what does all of this tell you? Well, it should tell you that this was clearly not the path that was planned for the entirety of the human race. This was not the plan that the so-called Great One, or whatever the hell you wish to call it, had planned for us. We, just like the other life forms on this planet, are a species that had a clear design meant to grow and mutate into new forms and explore new horizons so that we may continue life for the pursuit of understanding the mystery of our universe. But somewhere along the way, we were misled by someone or something that most people would call evil, or the polar opposite. If you were born in America and had the intellect to not be stupid and believe every little thing your parents, friends, and teachers tried to brainwash you with, just as they themselves were brainwashed by their parents as children, then I would wager that you, yes, you, the person reading this, would be smart enough to understand that there is clearly something wrong with planet Earth as I have described. America, as well as the entire world, is in a state of what I like to call subtle turmoil, and what I mean by that is that the perspective from the outside would have it appear that everything is peaceful and fine for the most part. People are having fun going out with their friends to bars, nightclubs, and baseball games. Teachers are teaching, plumbers are plumbing, and workers are working. But under the guise of peace, love, and understanding is a rather terrifying and dangerous beast like the anglerfish that lives in deep-sea oceans. This brilliant light that everyone seems to think is so amazing and awe-inspiring is actually a simple lure to get you closer to its mouth, which is the last thing the victim fish sees before the angler closes its massive jaws and devours it. I know I said I wouldn't rave about things, but it seems I already have. So that being said, allow me to reach my conclusion. The only advice I can give to people to avoid the catastrophe that is the de-evolution and degeneration currently taking place on this planet is to never allow yourself to give in to amazement. The very word amazement also contains the word maze. Get it? Don't get yourself lost and confused in a maze. Keep reading, keep learning, and keep growing in order to anticipate the future and avoid pitfalls that eventually occur in your life. Don't ever let someone brainwash you with their false sense of intellectualism and love for material things. Learn to think and feel for yourself, and only use the things in life that you truly need. And if you need even more help than that, then I suggest you try speaking with our Great One that everyone seems to think we're connected with. You'd be surprised at how many coincidental opportunities that will just pop out of nowhere in your life if you just have a few honest conversations with God and tell Him what it is you need help with.
We humans tend to think that we are the masters of our own universe, but it's funny how wrong we are. Like we have this weird and totally cool, high-powered mind with consciousness and self-awareness, And we think that our bodies belong to us. But we are wrong. When you really boil it down, our bodies are more like a giant pile of tiny bugs, which communicate with each other over an electrochemical network. And that electrochemical network is so powerful that our intellectual qualities emerge from it. So our minds are just the internet of our bodies. Furthermore, our minds are just a tool meant to automate the body's activities, which provide the necessities of life for the giant group of little bugs, or cells. We think everything belongs to us, but not even our own minds belong to us. Think about it like this. If you think your mind belongs to you, that is like saying that the internet belongs to itself. And I think people in general are ridiculously far from being able to conceive of this possibility. Some people think that human beings aren't animals. But anyone with half a brain understands that in fact we are. And every animal has its thing which lets it survive. Wolves have teeth and run in packs. Elephants have a great size, great memory, and lots of dexterity in its trunk. Humans have high intelligence and complex vocal cords, which together provide the emergent property of complex language and therefore great coordination with each other. Humans have an upright posture with arms and hands with some strength and high amounts of dexterity. And our eyes can move very close to what is in our hands, which with our intelligence allows humans to study things closely and develop science and technology. We also have a feline-like curiosity, which is tenacious and can border on cruel. We have a predatory streak and like to eat meat. We also have a nurturing instinct and like to care for other animals. The thing is, compared to other species, the slight advantages which humans contain in their genome are very specific and far-reaching traits. What I mean is, a random human, if thrown into the wilderness of its own planet, would be in considerable danger of becoming something else's dinner or dying of exposure to the elements. However, a group of humans can very easily become the fiercest beast of any jungle, with cumulative power, tactics, preparation, and crafts. Then give the humans access to advanced technology, and a single human can become a monster with no equal on the planet. So I guess what I'm getting at is that the slight tweaks in the human genome which give us success happen to synergize with each other in brilliant ways, to give us things like language, self-awareness, and collaboration, among other things. These qualities require such a counterintuitive approach to evolution in comparison to all of the other creatures on planet Earth, that it is hard to believe that they developed side by side. Evolution's unsophisticated answer to wolves for success was friends and teeth. Elephants get friends and size and cool trunks and also tusks, which I forgot to mention earlier. These things are all direct approach solutions to problems. You got a need. You get a result. Except with humans. With humans you got need, so you get two or so qualities that work together to make a brand new thing, which is the needed result. Human beings are stupid successful. Yet our qualities tend not to have anything directly to do with our survival needs. Instead, the features which give human beings success are the result of two or more lower-tier qualities working in synergy. While at the same time other creatures on planet Earth who have evolved alongside the human genome all exhibit Tier 1 solutions to needs. This implies that the human genome has evolved to a higher paradigm than the other animals on Earth. My point is that this makes the human genome appear to be alien in some way or another. We live in an ordered reality, which allows the world to make sense. What is to my left is not to my right, and what is below me is not above me. This is relativity and geometry, and it is how we understand and interact with the world around us, and it is also how everything is connected, through relativity. But we see other types of connections as well. In quantum mechanics, there's something called entanglement, which states that the interaction of two particles connects them and places them into a single quantum superposition, or cloud of probability, where each particle is represented by a series of probabilities which describe its position, momentum, and orientation. And the theory states that those probabilities describe the reality of that system, that they exist in a wave state together. It is not only bizarre that we should abandon our intuition, which would tell us to believe that those particles are floating around somewhere in that probability with coherent attributes, but instead that they in fact are the probability is one thing. But the fact that things become intertwined with each other in this relationship is an example of strange non-Newtonian, non-Euclidean connections in nature. The best example of this would be Albert Einstein's Epochhafte Fernwirkung, which is a connection which also violates the limits imposed by the speed of light. This implies that things can be connected in ways other than through relativity and Newtonian physics, and some possibilities of these ways have been theorized in physics. These theories, such as M-theory, supersymmetry, string theory, etc., have been postulated because they provide physicists with tools that allow them a deeper understanding of reality. However, our senses of everyday life are Newtonian physics and relativity. So that is what we see when we look at things. We see things constantly behaving in accordance with their connections in relativity and Newtonian physics. But we know that there are other types of connections which contradict Newtonian physics, such as Albert Einstein's Epochhafte Fernwirkung. So we have senses which are focused on a specific set of connection which benefits us in how we interact with our environments. But now you can see how those very same senses are a shroud over our seeing the fullness of reality, and provide us only with a sort of hologram interpretation of a thing which is much more complicated and different than what we are biologically and intellectually equipped to sense. With this knowledge, one can extrapolate that all things are made possible.
Post stories of strange happenings that don't really go anywhere. Be me. I was a Boy Scout, hiking to a big cabin in the woods with some basic amenities to learn some basic things. Older scouts were leading us to the cabin along a clearly marked trail. Scoutmasters were further back, watching some of the younger scouts go behind a tree. We arrived at a clearing about halfway to the big cabin we were all staying in. Sudden stop.jpg. The biggest scout, Jake, was holding his arms out, blocking us from going forward. "Are we waiting?" one of the guys I didn't know asked. "No, look at that tree," Jake said, pointing at a dead tree in the middle of the clearing. "Just a tree," Phil said, walking towards it before stopping in his tracks. "Oh, I see it now." I had to squint my eyes to see, but there was a heat haze radiating from the tree, like the kind you see in the desert. One of the braver scouts walked up and touched it with the palm of his hand. "Feels like a normal tree." We all just stood around the clearing entrance while some of the older scouts paced around the tree, looking it up and down. Eventually, the scoutmasters caught up and seemed as dumbfounded. One suggested it might be about to catch fire. The other thought it was cool to sit around and watch and wait. Nothing happens.jpg. We got back on the trail after a good half hour of nothing. We went to the cabin, lights out. Everyone woke up borderline dehydrated. Lines formed behind the sinks instead of the kitchen, like usual. Everyone was contently sipping from water bottles and canteens for the rest of the campout. Fast forward to the last day, and nobody was thirsty anymore. We went back on the trail to the parking lot, and the weird tree in the clearing was gone without a trace. Everyone was confused but shrugged it off. A scoutmaster said it must have turned to dust completely and blown away. Sometimes we would joke about the sacred native tree of dehydration. Here's one of my dad's stories. Be my dad. When he was young, he found an apartment in Vermilion. He found a girlfriend, my mom. He heard sobbing at night, too tired from his day job to investigate. He invited a college friend to visit, and he stayed the night due to car troubles. His friend woke up in the middle of the night hearing a baby crying. One day, my dad invited my mom over. She's the kind of woman that sleeps on the couch instead of in my dad's bed. She woke up in the middle of the night. She was face to face with a transparent woman looking down at her. Ghost.jpg. Mom was too shocked to move or say anything. Suddenly, she was overcome with an immense wave of sorrow and grief, like if she watched her dad die again 10 times over. The ghost lady faded out. Mom fell back to sleep. And that's all there really was to it. My dad could never find information on that apartment's previous occupants.
The experience is quite short, but I'll write it the same way I found out also English is not my first language. Be me, 8 years old. My father told me about a paranormal experience I had in our former house. Basically, he told me about one time I was taking a bath and allegedly saw my mother and started crying like crazy. My mother isn't dead, but it was impossible she could have been in the house at the moment. I never had any paranormal experience, so I just assumed he made it up. My brother was sitting at the table with us. I knew that if it was a joke, he wouldn't participate because he hates my father. My face when he backed up the story. He said when he came back from school, I was crying in a corner. I didn't believe it. Why would I freak out because of my mom? The conversation ended there. I forgot it. Fast forward 6 years. I'm 14 years old in the middle of class. Suddenly remembering something. I remembered some friends I used to play with when I was between 5 to 11. They lived in the same house in which the doppelganger thing allegedly happened. I remembered being scared of the bathroom. I remembered avoiding the bathroom or making someone wait for me next to the door. I remembered one specific time I was shaking and had tachycardia because of being there. At that time, I didn't know about the supposed experience I had. No explanation for the constant fear I had. Going home after school. My brother was drinking in the garden. I asked him about the story. Again, he confirmed it. He added information. Yeah, you were mad scared after that. You'd always ask people to go to the bathroom with you. I mean, literally inside the bathroom, or you'd start crying. I remembered all of that except for the day I saw the ghost in the bathroom. My big brother and father both had paranormal experiences there. My brother mainly. Anyway, it's a weird and rather stupid story, lol.
Never bothered to Greentext before, so giving it a shot now probably sucks. Got a story about weird Appalachian wood stuff. Or just me being dumb once again. Not sure which, but probably both. Be me, 10 years old. I was in Appalachia. It was late summer, but I hadn't been outside very much lately due to IRL issues. I was bored and a little depressed. I thought I could distract myself near the creek behind my house. There was a wild blackberry bush next to the water, and I was one of 3 people who knew where it was there. I went over the hill to hang around in the water and enjoy some of the good food nature was offering. I approached the bush. It was empty. Local woodland inhabitants took what I claimed in my head was mine. More bushes were up the hill and in a nearby field, but those were well known by other people and too close to my bush to be ignored by trash animals. My plan was ruined. Or so I thought. I had a brilliant idea. The whole area has blackberries and lots of other wild shit. I hadn't been exploring across the creek to the southwest very much. I could embark on an adventure and find something to eat at the same time. I was in a gifted class for a reason. I made my way across the water. On the other bank was another hill. I had been there before, but not far beyond. It was too steep to stand. It was covered in bushes and massive thorns, but nothing edible. The only way southwest was to crawl through it. I was never as big as other kids my age, so squeezing through without too many injuries was easy. At the top, looking down the west side, there were no berries. The other slope was not as steep, an easy walk down into the woods. The trees were dense but still very bright. It felt pretty cozy. I went over half a mile. Still nothing good to forage, just leaves and vines. I considered turning back, but distracted myself with exploring this part of the woods for the first time. The urge to go home persisted. It was nothing. There was no danger, just unfamiliarity. I went further. I continued observing different types of trees. I checked under rocks for bugs. It wasn't worth it. I needed to leave. I'm not allowed to be this far from home. I don't know why I feel like this. No animals, no people, still enough light coming through the trees to not be spooky. Why am I still scared? There's nothing around me to cause harm. Nothing. That's the problem. I haven't seen a single animal. No birds, no squirrels, no deer. I had neighbors. None of us bothered to keep our animals contained because they never caused trouble. I didn't even see a dog. I didn't hear anything either. I couldn't hear birds and no weird bug noises. The woods should be screaming like a jungle. Even the trees are quiet. No leaves rustling or any wind. I took a moment to listen for anything. I could hear my own pulse in my head, nothing else. I'm the only animate thing here. It made me feel seen, like too much attention. I was never afraid of speaking to crowds, but it felt like they saw me doing something embarrassing. Was I being watched? Was everything else just gone? I checked for anything nearby, just more foliage and rocks. Again, it's not too dark to miss anything. I looked everywhere. Same shit. If something is here, I can't see it. I don't like that at all. I started crying, but quietly because I'm not a complete baby. I headed off in a random direction. I was constantly looking everywhere, hoping to see it coming. Whatever it is, going deeper into the woods. I didn't care. I just needed to get away from this. I probably looked schizophrenic, always checking behind me for invisible shit. I don't know how long I was out there, but it took too damn long to find a road. I expected a field, but I wasn't paying attention to where I was going. I know I'm west of home. The road is north-south. I turned right and went north. I was too scared to walk near the tree line. I walked in the middle of the road. Several minutes passed, and I saw small fields, but they're more like clearings. The fields have cows, and a couple are gathered near the fence. They seemed interested in me. Once I was far enough to have fields on both sides, I realized where I was. It was my neighbor's farm. The road goes between fields. His house is near the trees. I decided it wasn't worth bothering him. I was safe in the middle of the road. I saw more cows in both fields. All of them were standing next to the fence. Weird. Maybe it wasn't because they were interested in me. As I went through the farm, the road curved right to the east. At the end of the farm, there was an intersection. My house was to the south, not too far, just a few minutes. Maybe 2 if I ran, but I still didn't feel safe. The fields ended here, and the road went back through trees. That's too close. I still needed to go home and get inside. It was still not dark outside, but the sky was turning orange. I didn't have much time left to get inside. I stayed in the middle of the road and sprinted back home. I was still crying, but not quiet anymore. On my porch, taking time to calm down. When I didn't look too fucked up, I went inside and spent the rest of the night in my room. Mom never asked what happened. She never really cared. Why did I lose my shit? I always played in the woods as a kid, never freaked out like that. Was I being stalked by a person or animal? I've heard stories about woods getting quiet when some kind of predator is near, but there wasn't anything dangerous in the area that I knew of. Some claim mountain lions are not extinct on the East Coast like my father's side of the family. They told me there was one in the kitchen early in the morning. Their door never locked properly. If that's what was following me, why didn't it attack? They don't usually attack if they know you can fight back, but I was a child with no supervision. My last theory, a person. But I was still a lone child. If it was a creep watching me, why didn't they do anything? I mentioned I had some stuff going on at the beginning. Grandfather died the year before, and this was my first summer with nothing to do. Was it psychological shit I had to deal with? Maybe I was paranoid for no reason. Would you worry about it?
Thanks/X/ for making the world a mundane place. Come to /X/ hoping to find something abnormal, something that would cause me to experience true curiosity again. Have hopes of being enlightened to some new mind-shattering concept. I hope to find some good material to research and history to study. Instead, find a board filled with constant shitposting and Reddit-tier meme threads that mods don't remove. Find threads full of insane schizos who will either support or reject an idea without a single compelling reason. Most good threads are ruined by LARPers and still manage to get attention because mods don't remove them. Catalog is always full of copy-paste threads or threads that lack any new material or content. To be honest, it's all pretty disheartening since /X/ is no longer, and really hasn't been for the past few years, what it claims it is. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that one last time I want to try to reach out again and try and sate my curiosity here, since as of now it would appear to be my last option as a resource for any kind of paranormal info. If you possibly have any other suggestions for other, more serious resources for researching paranormal content, please feel free to share it. I think if anything, I just want to be curious again. And /x/ has killed that curiosity and in its place left the painful reminder of how plain life truly is.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.